So I actually don't think that Coraline ever left the other world. I'm going to be sharing some of my favorite Coraline theories with you guys today. So the reason that I think she never went back to the other world is because she can't be seen going back through the tunnel to the real world whenever she first went there. She is only seen going to bed as it fades away and it turns back into the real world. And whenever Coraline finally returns to the real world, she sees her parents trapped in a snow globe. How could this magic have even happened in the real world if it's only there in the other mother's world? After this, the real world seasons seem to change very rapidly, and her neighbors, Miss Spink and Miss Forcible, just happen to have everything that's useful for her in this world. When in the beginning of the movie, she doesn't even interact with them at all. It also is so suspicious to me that the neighbors don't think to call the police whenever her parents are missing, unless they were being controlled by the other mother. The cat also appears to be really doubtful too, like he knows that she's not actually back. And at the very end of the movie, the cat actually disappears behind the pink palace sign, showing they're still there. Okay, so back to another Coraline theory. I am pretty sure that the well was another portal to the other world. Whenever Coraline meets Wybie for the first time, he tells her that if she falls to the bottom of the well, she can look up and see a sky full of stars even in the daytime. Something very representative of the other world is that it is night all the time. And whenever Coraline first sees this well, it has a ring of mushrooms around it, which is obviously representative of a fairy ring, which is definitely not a good thing if you stand in the middle of it. You're supposed to do certain rituals if you do accidentally stand in the middle of a fairy ring, because fairy rings are very representative of curses and can lead to a negative outcome. And if this theory is true, that means that at the very end of the movie, whenever Coraline drops the key back down the well, the key would have ended up back with the other mother. Which I also feel like this helps with the theory that she never left either, because the other mother is giving her a false sense of succeeding, when in reality, Coraline just trapped herself, which is why the ending just seems way too good to be true. So the entire theme of Coraline has to do with power dynamics, and this power relation between bugs and humans and nature. Of course, as we know, spoiler alert, the other mother is a spider. In European folklore, spiders represent fear, and Freud actually believed that this represented mothers who wanted to devour their children out of possessiveness or guilt. Does this sound familiar at all? And it is kind of alluded that the other mother is contacted through Coraline dreaming. Even Coraline's hair clip is representative of the devil's darning needles, which is what dragonflies represent in European folklore. And it was said that they would poke out eyes or sew the mouth shut of naughty children. And doesn't this sound familiar whenever Wybie had to have his mouth sewed? Whenever he was disobeying the other mother? And poking eyes just like the button eyes. But there's so many more questions that I have, like who exactly is the other mother? How did she get there? Is she the real enemy of the story, or was Coraline set up? I made a whole YouTube video talking way more in depth on Coraline conspiracy. What if the most terrifying place you have ever been to was your own home? There is a home in California that is filled with the most terrifying paranormal activity. I saw this video on my For You page. It blew up. I'm sure a lot of you guys saw it. This girl, Mackie, has a friend who can see and speak to the dead named Amanda. And she had a vision that there was potentially a wooden box buried in her courtyard. And as they've been digging up these bricks, more and more terrifying things have been happening around the house. Almost like they're finding the source of everything that's been going on in their home. So I had so many questions and reached out to get the full story on the house. So her family is the second owners of the home, which they purchased about 32 years ago. And I don't know how much y'all know about Ouija boards, but they are essentially a way to communicate with spirits. And for those who are very experienced in connecting with the other side, it is told that there's a lot of rules that we're supposed to follow. Like being respectful, closing out. Without really understanding these rules at a very young age, Mackie and her friends started to play a Ouija board at the house. And this opened up everything. So messing with Ouija boards, watching videos about Ouija boards can potentially lead to a portal or doorway opening for spirits to come in. And this is when a lot of stuff started to go down in Mackie's room. One thing that would happen was the temperature would start to go up without her even touching the thermostat. Almost to the point where it felt like a sauna, and sometimes when this would happen, her covers would start to be pulled off at night. And you might be thinking, well, aren't spirits cold? Well, yes, whenever you're ghost hunting, spirits tend to be cold, but demons are the ones that give off heat. And animals tend to pick up on this stuff first. Here's a video of her dog growling at something in the corner of her room. She had also witnessed a balloon attached to a weight slide across her room, in addition to her entire family witnessing a glass slide across the table. In disbelief, they checked to see if there was any water there, and there wasn't. People would feel dizzy and disoriented in her room. In addition to this, her health also started to decline and went up just after moving rooms in the house. So naturally, they got the house cleansed, and while this helped a little bit, this was only the beginning. So a sixth sense is a form of intuition, not usually explainable in normal terms of perception. And Mackie's first experience with this was whenever she passed by a house that she had no idea was abandoned when she was younger. Her mom and her were looking at it, and she saw an old woman come out and start staring at them. She stated to her mom that she felt like that was awkward that she saw them. And the mom was like, this house is abandoned, and the last owner had passed away, and the daughters are trying to sell it. When they got back home, Mackie ended up drawing out a picture of what the woman looked like, and it ended up looking exactly like the original owner. And another time this happened was with the garage in their own home. The garage has always been a very terrifying place for her and any friends that come over. People often stating that they've witnessed someone sleeping on the surfboard rack. There seems to be a spirit in there that presents himself as a little boy with the head of a boy, but a dark body, which doesn't make sense. And Mackie used to talk about an old man being in the house for years. But it wasn't until a year ago that her father finally told her that someone took their life in the garage. And he looked like the old man.